NLP frames for me are really interesting. You'll hear me say, this is almost like my mantra, the brain is compelled to respond to everything you tell it. So what that means is you will focus on what you tell yourself to focus on. You can get other people to focus on what you tell them. That's what frames are all about. Because our brains are just, they'll go anywhere. You only have to do the self-talk exercise that we do in our training. We do that self-talk where, in fact, you might want to do this as a little exercise, not just now, but when we finish. Put your phone on timer for 10 minutes. Get yourself pens and paper and start writing out all your self-talk. Now, you're not writing in sentences, you're not writing in paragraphs, you're just doing a brain dump. So if you're sitting there going, I don't know what I'm talking about, what's this rubbish that Fiona was talking about self-talk? I don't talk to myself. What am I supposed to do? That's what you should be writing down, keeping up with it. And once you realise just how much our brains go off in tangents, but yet our brains like order, so our brains respond to order when they get commands. So this is why framing something works so powerfully. So NLP frames are the frame or context in which how you view something affects the way you see it and the meaning it has for you. The different frames can be imagined as the lenses that magnify certain information that we're interested in or filter out other information. If I ask you, there's an exercise that I do on the NLP dual certification when we do it in person, when we actually do that one in person, we send people out with 3 different job titles. We get people to become a safety officer, an event planner, and a security officer. And then we send them round the hotel with that hat on to start to go and do a report, go and do a survey of an event that you want to do with these different hats on. And it's incredible what comes back because they're framed into that job title. So the safety guys will see all safety problems. The security guys, they'll be looking at doors you can come in and out, but they're actually ignoring everything else because you've sent them with a point of view to go out. So it's good fun when you play with this. They're a way of focusing your clients on different outcomes, helping them to take a step back and think. They're also a way to influence outcomes because you're influencing the direction you want someone to go. So the NLP frames comes under the umbrella of influencing and persuading, using language for influence and persuading. And you do know we're being influenced and persuaded unconsciously by everything we hear. You know that. And the more you're aware of how you're being influenced, persuaded, the better it is to deal with that. And it can be friends, it can be media, it can be family, it can be the people you work with. So I wanted to give you some examples of some frames tonight. The as if frame, this is when you ask someone to imagine something as if it's already happened. Because the brain doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination, when you ask this conversationally, people very quickly will tell you what it's like as if they're already doing that thing. This is a really powerful technique for accessing inner resources, building confidence, and helping others imagine achieving something. When I do, the way I use this is if I ask someone something, so I say, how do you want to see yourself in a year's time? I don't know. If you did know, what would it be? And that you'll hear people talking hypothetically, oh, if I did know, it would be this. But they're still giving you an answer, but because they think it's a hypothetical answer, they don't realise, where's that answer coming from? It's coming from their inside world. And when you say it really conversationally, so I don't know, if you hear I don't know, a good response to that is, if you did know, how would it be? Or if you did know, what would you be doing? Or if you did know. And consciously, the brain doesn't hear that. It just responds. I'm running the dual certification at the moment, the dual certification business practitioner, business master practitioner, and with examples of it when we're doing some demonstrations. If you did know, and straight away the mind comes out. Then the outcome frame. This is when you focus someone towards the future and desired outcome. Focus towards getting results, towards being more resourceful to overcome challenges. This frame helps shift your client's focus to results, which help them become more creative and often allows them to solve problems and become more capable. It's also the frame I use in all my corporate training and coaching. I deliver a range of leadership development programs into organizations. And when we have people on our Enhancing Communicating and Coaching program, what we do is we send out a pre-course questionnaire. We send out, first of all, an invitation that has all the course content. Then we send out a pre-course questionnaire asking, what do you expect to achieve from this? How are you going to use this? And what results are you going to get? Now, straight away, that gives you an incredible insight into who's coming onto your course. Because we'll get some people will send back going, I don't know, I haven't been on the course yet. And you have other people are already looking at what they see of ways that they're going to implement that. When we're working in the training, we're talking to people, we get people, when people, we get face-to-face with people, we get them to go and put their expectations. So what are you going to use? So we take it one further, they've already been sent this in email, but we have them then do a flip chart exercise to say, what's your expectations? How are you going to use what you're learning here? What results do you expect to get? Then we do that again with a post-course questionnaire. Pick 2 things from the training. How are you pick the first thing from the training? How are you going to use this? What results do you expect to achieve? How are you going to measure this? And what could stop you? And then we repeat that for the second thing. And then 4 weeks after that, we send out another questionnaire to say, what's the third thing from the training? What's the fourth thing from the training? And in between, we'll say to people, okay, give examples of what you've achieved. So we end up, our 2-day training is actually a 9-week program. And we're sending videos and emails in between. And can you imagine the amount of information we then have for our post-training reports? All because we use an outcome frame of this, you're going to learn this, but we're giving people the outcome of how they're going to implement this. And I've done this face-to-face. I also do this for companies online. I worked with a company in Singapore last year. I've worked with people in the Middle East, and we set this outcome framing. And it's incredible because a lot of training, those of you who do training, a lot of training is really a 2-day or a 1-day entertainment. That's all it is, because nobody sets an outcome. You'll get a wee tick sheet to evaluate what the training was like, but nobody's actually said, where are you going with it? What are you going to do? How are you going to measure it? What results are you going to bring back? There was a huge organization in the Middle East. They wanted to do some training with some of the young leaders, and it was about, I think it was 120 young leaders throughout the whole of the MENA region. And they said to me, but nobody will come on their cameras. I said, what do you mean nobody will come on the cameras? They said, we can't get anyone to come on the cameras. And I said, can I have a look at your invitations you've been sending out to previous events you're having online? There's no mention of cameras. Now think about some place like the Middle East, especially with the women. The women dress differently when they're in their home to how they do in public. They're not going to put a camera on. An invitation. They said to us, if you can get 5% of people to put your camera on, we'll be delighted. I sent out an invitation. I drafted an invitation, and we spoke about visibility as leadership, the importance of being able to see each other, the way that 70 to 80% of our communication was visual, and how much more you got, and especially over camera, the way, and also as a young leader being visible in today's technology. We had 99% of people put their camera on for the 3-hour training. The 1% had a problem. They couldn't get their cameras to work, and they were furious that they couldn't get their cameras to work. So that was an absolute example of an outcome frame. So sometimes just by thinking, what do you want your clients to do? What do you want the people you're working to do? Tell them. Tell them what's expected. Then we have the agreement frame. This is so cool for business. Using this frame helps to redirect a person's argumentative energy rather than attempting to overcome it. In business, this is one of the best methods to reduce resistance when communicating with people, especially during negotiations. It also works well to neutralize bullying-like criticism in business. The best way to use this frame is by saying, I respect what you're saying. Also, have you considered? I appreciate what you're saying. And another thing we could do is blah. I agree. I totally agree with what you're saying. Also, another way of looking at this is there's two things happening. It's a pattern break. Most people who are argumentative expect someone to argue back with them. The minute you agree with them, they go, oh, you've diffused the situation. I absolutely agree. That's brilliant. And we could also do this. Do not say but. If you say but, you've just negated what someone says. If you say and or also, have you considered? And straight away, you're putting in your point of view or your way of doing it. So powerful. And this is brilliant when you're teaching for conflict in the workplace. It helps diffuse conflict just by agreeing. And then we've got the backtrack frame. When you go back and summarize, review, or contemplate what was previously covered as in a meeting. So review what's been covered. In a coaching, this we use to keep someone focused on what they're achieving. Anyone who's done any training with me knows that we're doing a backtrack frame at the end of every module. Okay, what we've covered here is this. What have you got from this? How are you going to use this? We keep, so this, what this is doing is this is unconsciously reinforcing everything that people have learned, because you can't leave that to chance. You can't just hope that people will remember what it is they're learning. Who watches like BBC documentaries or David Attenborough documentaries, any documentaries? I love the way that in a documentary, you'll get to see, especially the BBC ones, when a documentary is coming to the end, they'll start flashing back to the things that we're talking about. They'll start showing you the parts of film from where they started. Because what that's doing, that's locking all that information into the brain. So you just go back, you backtrack, and you start reinforcing, you start going over everything you're talking about. This comes down with the way that you tell people what you're going to do. This is a way of doing this in presentations. Tell people what you're going to do it, and then tell them what you've done. Write that down if you don't know that one. So you tell them what you're going to do, you do it, and then you tell them what they've done. But the backtracking really gets people, it reinforces. You cannot tell people things often enough. And then you've got the discovery frame. This is when you detach your expectations, desires, and judgment from a particular situation, its outcome. One question using the discovery frame is, imagine if you knew that you would not fail, what action would you take right now? Or another one, discovery frame. Okay, in an ideal situation, what would you want to do? This is huge when you're coaching people for career progression. In a dream situation, in an ideal world, in an ideal life, what would your ideal life look like? What would your dream life look like? What would your dream job look like? And not just look, what would it look, sound, and feel like? If money was no object, what would you be doing? These are all discovery frames. These are all and this is a way where we tap into the unconscious. Oh, and look, just her eyes went up and she went into visualizing. I don't know what you were visualizing there, but something went, oh, and that's when you'll see people, their eyes will start to go up. They'll start to go into visualizing. They'll start to creating pictures, and they'll start really connecting with possibilities. And it's lovely to use this in business coaching, because very often, a lot of the time, especially if you're doing leadership development coaching, people are stuck in the logical brain a lot of the time. This frame helps people go explore and discover. And also, sometimes I use them, well, just play with it. Play with the possibilities. And one way to work with the discovery frame is that you're looking at possibilities. You're not looking at definite answers. You're looking at possibilities, maybe things you've not considered, and you'll see people start to go from, oh, I've never considered that, to all of a sudden, well, actually, this is really quite interesting. Could I do that? I've never thought of that before. And that's you're wanting to discover new things. Okay, so before I tell you about that, because we've got the offer on the achieving objectives for success, what I'm going to do, we've got a wee bit longer now. First of all, any comments? Let's get some comments and answers before we put you into breakout rooms. So what have you got from that? Who's going to, I'm going to pick someone. Okay, Jackie, what have you got from that so far?
So actually what this has done is reinforce what I did yesterday with a coaching client. He was new and he had all this stuff just spewing out and he was just so much in his head. So that's what I did. I just had him reframe, take a deep breath, reframe everything. If you did know, what is the one thing you would do right now?
There you go. Did you hear that? Did you hear that lovely frame there? What is the one thing you would do? Because again, what you were doing there, he was creative, the brain was all over the place, and you got him focusing on to, and thank you for this, because sometimes when you go down discovery frame, people are all over the place. Oh, okay, out of this, what's the one thing? And what difference did that make when you said that?
All of a sudden, his whole demeanor changed and he was like, oh, I would do this. And he was just focused after that. And then we could proceed with the steps to take.
And did you hear what Jackie said? I would do this. That's almost going into an as if frame as well. So it's almost overlapping. There's a little bit of the one thing. And if you could do it, oh yeah, I would do that. It's not actually saying I will do it. It's just I would, which is great. Fantastic. Thank you, Jackie.
For me, I would, especially if you've got a client and they really don't know whether they should be or shouldn't be doing, I would actually get them to jump out of their head and ask them, where would you be? What would you be doing if money was no object? If you didn't have to chase money, if you didn't have to chase that objective, what would you be doing? Where would you be? What would you be saying? What would you be doing? And then that actually allows them to do a bit of introspection into themselves.
Yeah.
And it's only when that internal shift happens do they have that self-realization moment. So you're getting them to find the answers within themselves.
Yeah. And what you're doing there is very often people have a limited belief that it's finance that's stopping them doing something. And very often it's not.
Yeah.
Because most of the time we can find the money to do what we really need to do.
Yeah.
Who's paid for more for a holiday than they expected to pay? You found it. Who's really wanted to go on a course and found a way to get it funded? There's ways and means that I understand not everyone can do that, but actually, and for the majority of people, there's always ways round.
Yeah. And a lot of them don't realize that the answer's within them.
Yes. Your answer.
They're looking all over, they're looking to everybody, above, below, but the answer's actually within them. And all we need to actually allow them is to pause for a minute and look within.
Yeah. And this is one of the presuppositions of NLP. We all have the resources required within us. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. There you go. Shari, what did you get from this?
Hi, similar. It definitely helps to get clients unstuck, but I like actually using it myself as a sort of like a reflection, self-reflection tool. Yeah. Because I've had moments recently where I've become stuck.
You become stuck, yeah.
And just analysing everything and not really able to find a solution. And then I've asked myself similar questions to get out of my own way.
Okay, so that's using frames with yourself.
Yeah.
To be able to help you get in a direction. Yeah.
Yeah,
and the lovely thing about this, you can use this for yourself. And also, I use this very often if I'm going to a training. When I'm actually attending a training, I will focus on, right, what do I want to learn? What do I want to take away? What gaps do I want to fill? And just by doing that, I will always hear something different, especially when I go to some of the, because I go on seminars, I attend conferences, I do a lot of online training, I do a lot of online courses on NLP skills for business and coaching to keep me abreast of what's happening, see what everyone else is doing. So I actually frame, okay, what do I want to get from this? What do I want to take away? And see the difference that if you can encourage people to learn, even kids, what do you want to take away rather than just go and learn? Just go and learn. The brain doesn't compute to the brain. But if you say things, and I was working with a client in sales actually today, recruitment and sales, and they're focusing on the frame for them is to make sure they talk to 10 new people a day. That's their frame, because the frames fit into goal setting. But also when you frame your day, my day is going to look like this. And part of that day is me ticking off these different tasks that I intend to complete. You've got much more chance of completing these tasks rather than just sitting there going, oh, I'm going to do today. Completely different things to do. Okay, thank you very much for that. I'm going to put you into breakout rooms. We're going to go into breakout rooms for 10 minutes. What I want you to do is just discuss maybe where you've used frames or what you've got from today or some of the things that you've experienced, or maybe come up with some different frames because there's more than the ones that we've covered tonight. Maybe share other frames that you know. How was that? Good? Yeah. So frames, NLP frames, so powerful. And remember, people are doing this automatically. But the thing is, when you do this purposefully and when you do this consciously, it completely shapes your results. So when you're working with clients, the first thing I always say to my coaching client is, okay, what do you want to take away from this session today? That's my first question. What do you want to take away? What's your expectations? What are we focusing on? And then when we finish the session, we've framed what they're focusing on for the next. Okay, next Wednesday, we're going to look at how stories influence people. It's all about how stories influence people, the power of storytelling, and how, really from a neurological point of view, the way stories work. Because stories bypass the conscious resistance. And stories are really powerful. So I'll be showing you some different ways we do stories. So thank you very much. We've just gone 1 minute over time. I'm here if anyone wants to chat. I'll put the recording off. But just thanks very much. We'll see you same time, same place. Tomorrow night, for those of you who are members of the NLP Business Circle Club, that's our membership club for NLP professionals. If you're interested in finding out more, you can email me at fiona@theprofessionalgrowthcompany.com and we can give you details of that. We meet twice a month and it's 2 hours. So our next masterclass is tomorrow evening from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And we're working with the TOPE model. So that's one I haven't actually spent time on. So I look forward to seeing you there. And we might see you there, Tom. Maybe. Okie dokie. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. And I'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay, bye.